Hi guys, I'm about to show you the Book of Moods. What is the Book of Moods? Are you approachable? That's the question. What's your moods like? Can people come to you? Can they speak to you openly and honestly? So I'm going to show you an example of the Book of Moods. Now there's always a reason why people may be going through hard times. We understand that. And you won't know that when you're living separately. You know everything, or almost quite a few things about an individual when you're living together. So therefore you're able to monitor the moods. But when you live separately, and you're encountering different people, and when you're in a situation where you're encountering friends, are you approachable? It's a very serious situation. Are you approachable with your moods, with the things that you're doing? And then when I've shown you this, I then want to talk about when people contact you in a crisis. I want to talk about that. I mean, I did this once already, a recording, but actually realised I didn't actually broadcast or live. So I realised I wasted a conversation, but it's okay. It's prep talk. I want to talk about those crises that come to your text message, your messenger, your WhatsApp. I want to talk about whether or not you recognise it. So first of all, I'm going to talk to you about the Book of Moods. All right. So here goes, the Book of Moods. Will you understand it? So, as you can see, the Book of Moods. Okay, so the Book of Moods is, as you can see, some people could be high. Some people sit by the telephone waiting for somebody to call, and they don't call. That's about to throw them off the edge, feeling that they're unworthy and they're disappointed, that they just don't feel special. You know, you saw at the end of the day, somebody could walk in there in their job and the boss is shouting down the neck at them because they've had a bad day at home. Well, nobody knows what someone's personal business is, do they? But you can get affected by someone's personal business. Are you approachable? Can you talk to people? Are you easy to talk to? Will you understand? Do you know the knowledge, and do you know the way out? When I'm contacted, occasionally, well, people have a crisis and they contact me. Of all the people they can contact, anybody in the world, the support network that they're actually on or whatever they're going through. But when they contact myself, you're in the middle of something and you hear the words, I want to die, I can't do this anymore. It's a shock to hear someone say that, but it doesn't stop there. Because what do you do with that information when you know the person is vulnerable, you know they're going through a hard time, and you're the one that's received that text message? What do you do when you are receiving such a text message? Do you believe in what they say? Or do you just ignore it and go back to, I'll pick it up later? When somebody is actually writing the words, they want to die, they're not doing this anymore, it does become a crisis, does become of a concern of one you have to check up on. It cannot be a text, has to be a follow-up phone call. Unfortunately, People won't always pick up the phone, and that leads to frustration when you're trying to help them out of a crisis so they don't do something ridiculous to themselves. When receiving a message like that, the first thing I said was, oh, why me? I've scheduled my day today, and here I am with a crisis. The first thing I said was, why me? That's because you nominated yourself for the job, love. That's because you're the one that says you know how to help people out of their crisis. If you can, you try. And so when you receive that message, I don't want to be here anymore, I want to die, you can't leave it. So you ask and you plead for that person, please, can we have a conversation? And when that person won't let you have a conversation and they won't talk to you, you can find yourself frustrated, upset, and angry, thinking, hold on a minute, why have they put that responsibility on me if they're not prepared to have a conversation? They're leaving me with, I'm going to die, but they're not prepared to have a conversation. That's highly unfair to the person receiving information like that when you're not giving them an opportunity to talk. So what do you do with that message? Okay, right. What do you do with that message? Well, the first thing, what do you know about the person that sent you that message? That's the thing. How much do you know about the person that has sent you that message that says they no longer want to be here? What do you know? Would you be able to find them? Do you know where they live? Do you know their circumstances? Do you know their age? Do you know what they like? Do you know their disability? Do you know anything about them that you can hand over to the right authority to intervene to do a welfare check? What is a welfare check? Well, I've had a few of them. A welfare check means that there is a concern for an individual that is threatening suicide, that is very much in distress and needs some assistance, at least to check on, because a phone call is not enough. So you need to have a physical body to go and check to make sure they haven't done something silly. So what does that consist of? Right, you're the one that's in receipt of the telephone call. They won't speak to you. You're going to have to call for intervention. So what do you have to do? For me, in the position that I'm in, I have to contact the authorities, the police. And many people don't want the police. They're fear. Please don't send the police. Now, what do you want someone to do if you are planning to do something and you go to do something, take your life, and that person hasn't told the police because you said don't tell the police? That person probably be held up in a court system. Why didn't you do anything? You know, and their whole life is destroyed because somebody says don't call the police. You leave them no choice if you're not going to have a conversation. You leave them no choice but to have a welfare check at your doorstep. Because we have a responsibility to keeping one alive, and only that responsibility. We have no responsibility to keeping secrets to help someone commit an act of suicide. No responsibility there. We don't have that. We want to prevent fatalities at every level that we can. When a person won't speak to you and they threaten suicide, you do have to call immediately. I had to dial 999 because I considered it as an emergency. From the 999, I would have to give over my information, what I know about the person, where they can find that person roughly. And if I couldn't do that, then perhaps I know somebody that's connected with that individual. Perhaps I could look on their Facebook to see if they're connected with an individual, very close to an individual. Just say, hang on a minute, do you know where they live? Now, because I was able to do that, I managed to get the location of where that individual was and get that welfare check out to them, which in the end, they were fine. I understand current situations were causing them to feel mental instability, isolated and alone. What can you do? So upon taking that phone call with the police and the ambulance services will bring you back up. What did you suggest? What is it that you helped this person with? What did they say? They want the full details, so it's all written out. They want your interaction, what time you spoke, what time they didn't, what time the last message was. It's really important to get all of those details, because if somebody does do a fatality, we have to pass over those details wherever they got to go, right? Somebody needs to know a reason as to what happened and why it couldn't have been prevented. And so it's not just one person that is affected by suicide or someone threatening suicide. It's a lot of people that are in the midst of that storm, worried about an individual. Are they going to be okay? What solutions did you do then from there forwards? Do you do a follow-up? Are those people all right? Would you put yourself through that situation again because they won't speak to you? No. So what you can do is supply them information of the therapist or counsellor or somewhere to go, and you can give that information as well. That's all you can do. Offload it, make sure that they've read it, they've seen it, they've got the information. For me, I know the person received the information, talked about the information, but would not accept the help. There is nothing else we can do for people if they will not accept the help. But if it gets to the point where they're in a crisis and they're a danger to themselves, then it gets to the point where sometimes somebody will have to be sectioned for their own good. Section means probably, let's call it a hospital, even though it's a mental health ward, let's call it a hospital to get better. Sectioning can be unpleasant, and some people say they're all right. Some people say they have an unpleasant time in there because they've got this image painted that of white suits and etc. It is not all doom and gloom. In actual fact, you'll actually find you don't even know the difference between staff and the patients because they all look alike, apart from the bag or neck, a lanyard around the neck. So sectioning isn't polite for anyone. That's a last resort, really, to want to put anyone into sectioning. Very much a last resort. You can voluntarily, if you really are unwell, you can voluntarily try and ask yourself to be, seen as quick as possible. But we all know that journey can be months of waiting before you get any help, and that's where the fatalities come into it. And that's why, with what I do, we've offered a solution to bridge the gap between the authorities and ourselves. We know that there was a 6 month waiting list. That's why I turned around and built the project based on, hello my love, based on that waiting list that is just endless. And we know that in a crisis, somebody just needs to talk there and then. They don't have time to wait 3, 6 months, 5 months, 10 months down the line before they get an appointment. No, what they're asking is for the circumstances need to change. Whatever's going on in their mind needs some support and some recognition. And when that doesn't happen, again, we have fatality, or we have more suffering, we have more scar tissue, we have more incidences, we have more A&Es, we have more distrust. And that's the thing, isn't it? Trusting the services. Who do you trust when you're down? For me, building my own service, a support network, learning to talk out prevents fatalities. I must say, with my own ordeals, the things that I go through, having to stay strong is the most toughest thing I've ever had to do. Having to stay strong and learn to talk openly and honestly and not worry about the judgment that's going on. Learning to control the emotions where, although I could be emotional, try not to project it too much out on social media to upset somebody else. But sometimes we just want to talk, and sometimes when we do talk, it does make a big difference to someone. And I think since doing what I've been doing, raising awareness has helped me develop skills, social skills, integration. Although I can retract from that integration because people have been completely mean. People will set out to destroy you and your reputation, write indirect statuses or whatever they want to do about you and make you feel that you're not good enough. Well, I think I'm pretty good at doing what I'm doing. And I'm not asking for anyone to... It's not about me. Whenever I'm talking to you, this is not really about me. This is about the message. The message is about how do we prevent the fatalities? What can you do when you receive those text messages? I'm going to read that text message out to you because, I'm all for hiding people's identity, but the text messages that you receive are horrible. I can't do this anymore. I want to die. What a responsibility to put on an individual. Okay, let me talk. If someone talks to you, that's a bonus. It's great. But if they're not going to talk to you, you're left with that message. And you're left with, if they die and they've come to me, I've got to answer the questions. I've got to talk to the police and tell the police, yes, I was the last one that received the message. But is it my fault? that they've gone and done something, it wouldn't be my fault. It's a choice that they've done, but they chose to put their faith in me and tell me that they didn't want to be here, which again is unfair. Because if you're going to speak to somebody, especially that helps people with mental health, then go the whole hog. You can't be half in, half out, be a fan and not take the lesson out of the fan, because it makes a mockery of the things that we do. And if it was out to destroy me or destroy my reputation, you think about it, right? I've had people actually sat there and says, you're the reason for my mental health. And the reason why they would turn around and blame me for that is because I'm not going to give them the attention that they want, because I recognise it's behaviour problems, and that I'm not going to give my time to where I'm accessible at every level to someone. If you was going to go to a mental health appointment, it would be appointment, you know, when you're going to be there, you know, when time your appointment is going to be, you know who you're going to see and where it's going to be. That's how you respect. But the people that I talk, people that don't have that, have you got time to talk? No, they just assume that I'm going to be there for them at their beck and call, and that they've got top priority or they're front of the queue for help or therapy. That's not right, because I have a life too, and I have to manage my own mental health and these emotions that people are putting to me. And their stories are overwhelming. They are incredible. I'm fascinated by people's stories, and when they're still standing, I want to say congratulations. I'm amazed that you're wonderful. Don't discredit yourselves if you're still standing through trauma. You're a survivor. Don't discredit yourselves. You've made it. Whatever's happening in your life, that's probably hardly anything compared to where you've been or what you've been through. It's just another notch to add to something else, or another learning curve. And I think every lesson that we've ever been through is a learning curve. What happened to me, child abuse, without going into it? Would I be able to talk to people and say, hey, these are the red flags, watch out for these, protect your children, this is how you can protect your children? That's why I talk openly and honestly about my abuse. Domestic violence, I talk about those things and the red flags, so you can understand the red flags and perhaps understand the pattern before you get into it or get out of it if you are in those patterns. Awareness comes at every level of everything that we've ever been through, and it's important that the awareness goes out. The most ignorant part of awareness is holding back the information and not allowing that information to go anywhere else. So when you viewers have listened to this, all I ask is share it. It doesn't have to be for you. The message would be for someone to think about their actions before they do silly things to themselves. I know pain very well, but I didn't realize the effect, really, until someone does it to you, leaves you with a message, I want to die. That's something that I used to do years ago on a wobbler, not wanting to be here, feeling suicidal and self-harming and drinking to numb the pain. Now I tell people, avoid the alcohol when you're in a crisis and you're in a mess or you're depressed, because it's just a suppressant and it's just what I call the devil juice, and it's out to get you at every level, and it doesn't care how much it wipes away your life. So I understand what crisis is. I understand what that is, what chronic is. Depression is a word, but it wasn't defined what someone's going through or the level of pain, anxiety, fear that they're going through. It won't. And so you've got to be at the lowest point to reach that crisis. And sometimes it won't matter what anyone says. If people are not consistent in people's lives, they start to feel lonely and isolated. Can you prevent suicide? If they reach out, yes. But learning the tools to stop it before that crisis is important. Learning the tools of how to be kind, how to be approachable is important more than anything. When people write indirect statuses, especially after you've had a conversation with them, and then there's a status up, is that status that you? You might think it's that you. That's enough to topple somebody as well. If they just got off the phone with you and then you put up an indirect status with the person, that person may think it's at them. So be careful of the things that you put up after having a conversation with an individual person. Because there was one time I had a conversation with an individual person, always about mental health, and you know what? They posted on Facebook 2 minutes later saying narcissistic and toxic people. And I think to myself, is that me? Paranoia will annoy you, but yes, you have to be warned that people will do indirect status because they have their own agenda. You just need to be very careful of these people around you, sheep's in wolf's clothing, I call them, what their hidden agenda is. Why do they want to be close to you? Is it sincere? Do they really, really want to help you out of your situations? It's not for fame and glory to save life. It hurts me when I hear people suffering. It pains me. It brings tears to my eyes when I realize if all they would have done was reached out, if they would have just spoken, or if that person would have just shared, it would have just reached someone. Know how to manage crisis because it's around you, your family and your friends, and you don't even see it. You look at me and you think I'm fine, but I go, hey, I have a label. No, not you. Does that you understand what that label and details? Do you know what comes with the label? Do you know the habits that come with the label? No, because you just see a person for face value. But struggles go on behind people's door. And we don't need people negative adding towards those struggles. We're looking for solutions of kindness and positivity. Make sure that you are approachable and that you practice positivity at all times. If you are in a crisis and you want to speak to someone, and those people that you've been contacting, like the crisis lines and things, are not good enough, you're not even fancy calling the Samaritans because you've probably been there before. There are options of speaking to people. You can even go on to the Mind Over Matter, Gives Back, make an appointment, and I will be with you as soon as I can be with you to give you that time to talk. That's what I can do from one survivor to another because I care. Do you? Enough to share this post. Let me see how many people look at the post. I can see the views and don't share the post. I'm talking about a crisis and somebody will dismiss it by just putting a like and not sharing it. But I'm doing my part. And that's what matters. Have you got a clear conscience, Kerry? Did you go out to help someone today? Did you do what you said on the tin today? Did you share that person's post that says, please share? If they ask me to share it, I will share it. If the contents are life-changing for someone, I will share it because I care. But what I can never understand is how people will join an arena or a platform. It's like going to a house party, drinking up people's food and not washing up the plate. That's what's happening here. People will share platforms, be on a platform and won't share the content out. So why are you on a platform then that says save life? When you raise awareness, do you pledge to save life? I don't understand it. Was it just for yourself to get information, or was you actually in it to make sure that you made a difference to the community, to make sure that you provide information of anything that's going to prevent somebody from taking their life? A positive post at least will change someone's thought process and encourage them. I'll take a bit of that. That post says, remember your self-worth. Just seeing a post like that people put. I always say thank you for the awareness, thank you for giving back, thank you so much for your time, for taking the time to encourage somebody else. I do that as much as I can. It's a shame that doesn't get back done to me sometimes because I'm just like everybody else. I have a human heart. I have emotions. I don't like rejection. I don't like abandonment. And neither do those people that have that label, mental health. That's what we've been struggling with for a long time. So those people that come onto a mental health platform where they're supposed to be holding each other up, in unity together and to make sure that the awareness is there. No brainer. Unity, community, teamwork. Are you a team player? Are you a leader? Are you approachable? Take care of yourselves, because somebody out there is taking care of you, whether it be your friend, whether it be your neighbour, your mum, your dad, whoever. Somebody, just someone, is taking care of you. Don't let that stop. Take care of them too. Take care of yourselves.